Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Union Stringcast. My name is CT McManus. We were on break last week. Spent a lot of great family time and glad to be back, though. So a lot of good things to be talking about, a lot of things going on in the music circles. We are exactly 2 weeks out from the big Rock and Roll Union 5th anniversary bash over at the Union Fire Hall. Performing are the incredible Sig Vicky, Carte Blanche, and Scorpio opening up the show. If you did not hear, they were on Jackie Bam Bam show over on MMR this past week. So a lot of good stuff happening. The Rock and Roll Union anniversary t-shirts will be available for the first time ever that night. We'll also be having special desserts made by Miss K's Cupcakes. And if you have not had any Miss K's desserts, man, let me tell you something. They are on point, and you're going to want a part of that. Just to give a heads up and just to let everybody know, I had a little faux pas with my computer this evening. Not sure what was going on. The screen was only giving me a blank screen of me, which wasn't good. So this is the first time ever, and you can tell me on the comments because I'm looking it up now. This is all done through my iPhone. So I'm using my iPhone tonight for the first time ever to do the show. Hopefully everything's coming over smooth. Everything's coming over all right. We have a great show for you tonight. We are joined by Kevin McElroy, the owner, curator, and creator of Philly Rock Radio, along with his co-patriot. And I am inviting them on now. No, I am. Give me one sec, guys. Like I said, trying to do this. There we go. Guys,
Hey.
welcome. So, like I said, if you caught any of that, my apologies. We're doing this straight from cell phone tonight. It's funny how different things work. Space age technology, and we got to finagle our way around it. How are you guys?
Good. We're hanging in there, man. And we totally understand that. We've been broadcasting at times and the computer just decides to shut right down. Right in the middle.
That is the absolute I've had times, and I'm sure I'm going to ask you guys about this, and I'm sure you guys have been around long enough to know. There's moments where you're like, yeah, this interview is going great. And then for some reason or another, I had this happen in my first year. Like half the interview wasn't there, and it was certain night. And for all of us that do this, there are nightmare moments.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way I interview, I never think it's going well.
Sometimes wires come loose. Yeah. It happens.
So I wanted to talk to you guys. We've been. First off, I want to thank you guys for having me a few weeks back. If you guys haven't had the chance to check it out yet, we were on Philly Rock Radio 2 weeks ago. We also ran our show pretty much right alongside these guys from the same building. But big thanks to you guys for inviting us in that night. But I wanted to talk about Philly Rock Radio. We've been, something you said, Kevin, we've been around each other in the same circles for a long time now. And you guys were there before I was. What was the whole point or thought process getting into Philly Rock Radio? How'd you get it started?
I was back in the late.
It looks like they may have frozen. Not sure what to do. I'm going to try and remove these guys from the stream, maybe bring them back on. Let's see if that works. Guys, my apologies. I had to. Now I'm having problems with them as well. Like, what is going on here? All right. So I'm hoping that those guys will come back on. Maybe that was just a faux pas. Like I said, so much great stuff being on. Had a great vacation this past week. Hoping these guys will bring us back, come right back on. Let me check out what the yeah, whoever, like I said, there's so many times that I don't know who's commenting. Somebody said I have that shirt. I'd like to know who that is. Like I said, if you're able to, it comes up as Facebook user unless you go in through the stream, through the, um, man, I don't know what happened there. Somebody said, speaking of technical problems, this is all the fun stuff that, like, I haven't had, fortunately, I haven't had this problem since I've come over to StreamYard. I was on Blog Talk Radio, and Blog Talk was a mess, man. That was big reason I came over here. I'm hoping that I'm able to get the boys coming back. Um, they dropped off the stream. Let's see if I can get them back on. My apologies, guys. It is a mess tonight. But trying to bring them back on. If you guys have had any chance of getting out, seeing any local music, anything going on in the local area, and would like to give a shout out to a band, to a group, we have the Rock and Roll Union Artist of the Month coming up for April. February's or March's artist of the artist of the month was Monte Carlo, a kick-ass, deserving band. They've been around now for about 2 years, and they really put on a hell of a show for the first time with during the Sick Vicky show. That was the reunion show of sorts, and really hoping these guys will come back on. And let me see if we can finagle this. Guys, I apologize for this mess. Like I said, it's technical issues. We're going to try and stick with us. We're going to try and restart the show if possible. I'm waiting to find out from Kevin if he's coming back on. Bear with me for a moment, guys. All right, guys. Not sure if you heard me or not. If anybody is willing to play around with us tonight to kind of talk about what's going on in the music scene, I can send you a link, say here in the Facebook, in the comments section, and we'll see if maybe your camera works better than ours. Just trying to fill some time here, guys, trying to give you guys a great show. Unfortunately, tonight it looks like it completely fell apart. So sorry for this, guys. Let me try and end this show. We're going to try and bring it back up tonight. Keep an eye out. We're going to try and restart it. Talk to you soon. Actually, give me one brief moment before you hang up from us. Kevin's going to try and come back on. Not sure what happened there. Like I said, this is my first time running it from my iPhone. The computer shit the bed tonight. Not sure what's going on. Thank you so much for everybody that's still hanging with us, even though it looks like a train wreck that you probably can't look away from. But no comments. But in the process, we're going to minor cosplayer. I don't know who Minor Cosplayer is, but that's pretty good. But we're going to take a minute and a half reprieve here, see if we can pull this thing together. We're going to throw the Rock and Roll Union original theme back up there, and hopefully within this minute and a half, we can get things situated. Hang tight. All right, guys. So So here we are, guys. This is going down like the Led Zeppelin, man. Trying to pick things back up, trying to send some links out there for some guests to maybe join us. My apologies, but like I said, once again, check this out. April 8th at the Union Fire Hall, Mount Holly, New Jersey. Kick-ass show going on. Brand new Sick Vicky music. Did I say that? Yes, I did, for the first time in years. Brand new Sick Vicky music premiering at the Rock and Roll Union 5th birthday bash. It is going to be a phenomenal evening filled with many friends. We're talking basically a Bonnie's Rock / Galaxy reunion of sorts. We're going to have a lot of good times, man, a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that you guys will join us. Tickets are a steal. They're $12 right now, $15 at the door. I believe we have Kevin and Johnny E back. Guys, my apologies. I don't know what the hell happened there, but we were talking about technical issues.
Yeah,
just talking about some loose wires.
There's a case study right there for you.
So my original question, going back to the beginning of the show, was what started Philly Rock Radio? What was your mind frame? And that was kind of where the wheels fell off the bus. And
Gotcha. Yeah. It was, it was over 12 years ago. My day job is in marketing and advertising and on the creative side of things. I've always had an interest in radio, but then when the idea of podcasting came up, it was just one of those things like, I need to know more about this. And, the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to do it. But, the idea of what subject matter would you talk about that you'd have, anybody interested in listening to what you wanted to say. Then it was 2010. It was funny because we went to see Cinderella play like their last show in this area that I can remember over at the Electric Factory. And that was in, I guess, April of that year.
That sounds about right.
We ran into one another. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had gone over with another friend of mine who's actually on the station now, Jimmy Red Hot, with 60 Minute Metal. And after the show, he had called me to say, hey, what'd you think of the show? And we talked about it for a while. And then I got off the phone and I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I've been wanting to do this podcast thing. I think Jimmy would, this is the kind of thing we can talk about, coherently, as music and the music that we grew up on. So we wound up brokering some time on an AM station over in Washington Township for a few years. And that program is actually called 60-Minute Metal, which is on the air now. But the more we did it there, the more we realized that most people were listening online. So at a certain point, figured, all right, well, let's take the money that we're putting into brokering this time and put it into our own equipment and our own platform and all of that. So that's 3 months of intensive learning and reading and practicing and exploring what platforms to use and all of that from November through the winter into 2012. Just decided to, and we were actually looking for other stations that would want to run our show.
Right.
We were used to brokering time. So it's like, okay, let's find an online station that will take our money. And I'll be damned if I could find anybody that wanted me to pay them. So,
wow.
And, and you understand it now from this point of view. Actually, it's funny. The one guy who turned us down is Mark Striegel, who was now on Sirius XM. He had a station of his own, but and again, I don't no hard feelings because it makes he's right. He says I can get just as many listeners with or without you. So, it's kind of like I don't need the hassle of dealing with a show. So,
right.
So I just, all right, well, I'll launch my own station. Jimmy and I, he had other commitments to do, so we couldn't work it out schedule wise. And I just kept plowing on and figured out how to start a station and work everything, like from mixer boards to microphones and all of that. And launched Philly Rock Radio in February of 2012. And so my mindset was, kind of like I just wanted to get together and hear great music that I just loved playing, didn't hear anymore. The reason for Philly Rock Radio as a name was kind of inspired by the stations I grew up on. It was really just kind of a homage, so to speak, to them and all the great DJs and stations that we listened to growing up. And then from there, what I didn't expect to happen was all of these bands like, emailing, contacting us, wanting to get airplay, other hosts wanting to put a station on. I didn't expect that. I really didn't know that was coming. So that wasn't originally part of the mission just because it wasn't,
right.
But wow, it was so cool to meet so many talented people in this area and to be awakened as to, what was going on, what they were doing, that original music was being made and getting played, and it's been a great ride ever since. So we've met some fantastic people and I've heard some great music. I got stacks of CDs over here from bands that we've been lucky enough to know over the years. So
yeah, I got to be honest. My first hearing of you guys was through Jim in Whiskey Grin. And he had said, man, what you're doing is perfect, like exactly what Philly Rock Radio is doing. And at the time it was, but it was like I was only doing maybe an hour or two a week. And you guys were running full steam 24/7. And it was such a cool thing to see that there were other people in the area that were showcasing these original bands. Now, there were times where like I would tune into Philly Rock and I'd be like, well, they're kind of playing the same stuff that like Hair Nation plays. But the one thing that really took me with you guys was your showcasing of the original bands. And you guys had stuff that like nobody else did. Like things from, God, the 80s and early 90s from the club scenes. We're talking Sick Vicky and things along those lines that you guys played that I got to give my hats off to you guys for.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it was, I guess, getting back to the mindset of things and why I wanted to talk about music and all of that was not only because, well, we could talk about the stuff that we knew and that we grew up on, but the more you look at something, the more you go, wow, all this stuff that I missed out on, be it local or national or bands like Thin Lizzy, like you heard one song on the radio growing up, but boy, it was not
Yeah.
exposed to the amount of catalog that they had, or that the success that they did have, or had a bit more success overseas than they did here. So that kind of music history has always been of interest to me as well. So to be able to say, oh, well, one thing kind of led to another. This song, this player was with this band, and that part's been a lot of fun. So it also crept over to the local scene, and some of the things that I was just young enough not to be a part of, those
Yeah.
Galaxy days and things like that. John and I have known each other now, 1977. Yeah.
Real long time.
And John, I wanted him to come over and see what this thing was all about, in the early 2010s. And he's like, nah, I don't want to,
That is really is a true story. I, had a lot of other things that I was doing at the time. And Kevin, hey, why don't you come over, sit in on the show? I'd be like, nah, man, I'm good. I listen to you. I love what you're doing. It's cool. I don't want to go hang out at your studio, and I can listen to that music online, man. It's cool.
I said, you got to
And then
dress
he'd
like a
ask
cowboy
again.
to come over.
Like, nah, man, I really appreciate the invite, but nah, I'm all right. And then I took the invite one night.
Yeah.
One day I said, you know what, man, I'm coming on over. I'm going to bring some beer. We're going to sit down, hang out. The rest is history. That's
awesome.
It's been hooked ever since. Yeah, it's kind of like getting your first tattoo, and you're gonna get,
sometimes
or your
just
first
can't
beer.
Stop. Yeah. That's right.
But yeah,
So-
Jim Mayberry, that's an interesting name for us.
Yeah, man.
It's the scene and how a lot of people know each other. It all comes together, and this new word that we've been saying over the past year, this serendipitous idea of the way things kind of interact. But Jim
And the
Mayberry,
one thing I want to throw out to you guys, and we got to make it happen regardless of what the circumstances are. You guys had something really, really cool happening. The vibe was cool, seeing other band members come together and maybe doing it once a month somewhere, where it was like a network almost kind of event that I came over to 2 weeks ago, that I would like to see maybe you guys continue with.
Yeah, that was something that came up with the first Sick Vicky show. Well, we were lucky enough to have a studio space, and we're in the process now of moving to a new one, or relocating to somewhere else that we can continue to host bands and events like that. They definitely will continue as far as we're concerned. Whether or not anybody shows, we'll see. But what happened was, we have 3 bands on the bill. So if we're going to interview one of them, hey, I just thought, why don't we invite all the bands over?
Right.
Kind of cycle through. Well, one thing kind of led to another. And again, back to Jim Mayberry, Whiskey Grin showed up, Mickey Rat from As We Become Ghost, Alex Fizz was there. Rich Fuchsia, a good friend of ours, who's speaking of Galaxy days, known for his infamous photography skills of shooting bands and whether he was at the Spectrum or at the Galaxy. And so it just really worked out really nice. And, Monte Carlo, Damien, Al were there. And there was a few comments made like, wow, we never get to see each other in any other setting unless we're playing together.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those things where you try it out and you didn't necessarily expect that or anticipate that, I should say. So it was very nice, and we knew we wanted to do it again. So when you're putting together this second Sick Vicky show, like, oh, well, we know what we're doing to promote that show. So we had another one. It was a lot of fun, and I know there's a few other people that are very interested in the idea of kind of a social club of sorts for musicians, and people who like music to get together in kind of a casual situation like that, where a place where it makes sense, and it made sense at our last place.
I mean, why not? Because you see things like the Elks Lodge, or you see things like the Italian Club, or whatever. Why not a club for like us?
Yeah,
for people that are into the music. Like, I gotta say, that's kind of what it felt like. Was it's a family atmosphere. When you see other people from the scene, it really is a family.
True. And it's funny when you're saying something that, again, these coincidental moments. I won't keep using the word serendipitous, but that mingler hat, we called it a mingler at the time. Next thing you know, I'm speaking with somebody, and you just mentioned this, the Italian club, the Sons of Italy member who was in charge of it. And in very short time, with these guys paying dues and all of that, they wound up buying their own building, their own club. So it doesn't take a whole lot to get to something like that if it's of interest. And
dude, that would be kill. I mean, definitely have to have a stage somewhere, but like that would be an amazing idea.
Yeah, and these things are very possible, and it's a matter of either getting the support or putting it together in the right way. With I was just talking to John's brother is coincidentally my financial advisor, so in all seriousness, no, he's great, but so I can bounce these kind of ideas off of him when it comes to business and things like that, and he's really savvy with how to set those up correctly so that they're done well and done in order to build. So it's good stuff.
I was going to say,
my other question for you guys is, we've been around the scene for a long time. We've seen what the local scene looks like. Clubs falling off the radar, few and far between as far as live places to play. The hardest thing of all that has been passing that torch, hoping that the next generation catches on board. Unfortunately, I didn't make Phil Wax's benefit. I was up in the mountains, coming home from the mountains that day, but I heard that there were two young, amazing musicians. We had Age of Ore the last time we were together. There's Zenora. I want to say more young bands locally that I've seen in a while. What do you guys think?
I was just saying that before we logged on that there's been a slight uptick in our opinion on that age level, with Age of Ore, Kin Soul's another one,
sure,
Zenora.
I mean, even when back when we were doing the saloon show and going to see Sal Tomasello and Rick
Slifer,
Slifer. These were young guys, and there's always been young kids playing and orchestrating bands or getting bands together, garage bands. Once they get on the stage, that's great. Well, what I'd like to see is a younger crowd coming in instead of these younger bands is outstanding, but they're playing to us old folks. And it's that same, they're playing to the same crowd, and the thing that's important is to get a younger crowd in, and that's kind of like passing the torch and then passing that torch again.
Yeah, I agree. There were times in the beginning of me doing what I do that I kept pushing all ages shows. That's something that I kind of grew up with Bonnie's and the Galaxy. They all had all ages shows that kind of fell by the wayside, whether it be for insurance policies or whatever the case may be, as far as bringing young crowd in. But I saw how hungry a young crowd can be. The Bamboozle Fest in Atlantic City had their break contest at Casey Ray's in Vineland, and Age of Ore and a couple other younger bands. I want to say the place was mobbed, and at least 60% of that was young people.
That's great to hear.
So, I mean, I know it's there. I know that the people want to come out, but it's a matter of giving them a place to go to.
Yeah, it certainly could be. It's you can't understand if something is worthwhile and can make a few bucks, why it's not happening. There's so many more things now that kids can go to that I couldn't when I was a kid, like beer halls, and you can bring your kid everywhere. You can, so yeah, to not have more opportunities. When we grew up, there was, the skating rinks.
That's right.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Bowling alleys, and there's a lot of things.
They used to have band nights at rec centers. Gyms, the local high school gym or whatever. You'd have battle of the bands, or just a night where there would be a bunch of bands
and those kids would be putting them together. The bands themselves, they would know somebody. In fact, it's probably connected somehow to Mike Minnick, Bullwinkle, who we knew growing up from our hometown, and I know all the guys that were in those bands back in the day that played our Pine Hill Rec
Sure.
Center. Would you later see them at Bonnie's very often, if not,
That's right.
if not the Galaxy? So
quick shout out. Somebody said the School of Rock is responsible for helping the students rock out. So yeah, big shout out to the School of Rock and other organizations like them. I know Zenora came out of that. A lot of other young folks are coming out of that. So yeah, big shout out to them.
yeah, the talent is amazing that's in this area, and we've certainly met many of them, and just some standouts over the years have been Rick Haas, Sal Tomasello.
Hell yeah.
I mean, just amazing talents. And they found themselves and found each other at a School of Rock, which is cool. So they're not just playing in their own little silo, for example. They do get exposed, and hopefully they get some good mentorship that exposes them to rock and roll history. And
I will say
influence.
This is the one thing, as far as like what you were talking about, getting a group together or a kind of like a club together, but also something that Jersey can do that's totally unique to our surrounding areas. If you go into Delaware, if they serve alcohol, you got to be 21 to go into those establishments. Here in Jersey, if they're serving food and alcohol, it's all ages.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that maybe people can keep in mind out for, or keep an eye out, look out for, is that could set Jersey apart from other areas.
So put a sandwich in your
I was
cooler.
going to say, so that's always been a law. Or
yeah, it's weird because
so the corn chips on the bar at Bonnie's, that counted, right? Or the cheese curls or whatever.
In the beginning of me booking shows, that was like the weird thing. I couldn't bring, like, Rat Rod, when they first started, they had Elliot, who was like an 18-year-old kid behind the drum kit. I couldn't get them booked in Delaware because of his age. I brought him over to Jersey, and they're like, yeah, no problem. If we serve food, you can, okay. Like,
right. Okay.
And there's more places to play in Delaware than there are here in South Jersey. South Jersey has nothing anymore. I mean, we have Casey Ray's, which once in a blue moon does original music. The Landis is phenomenal, but that's more reserved for national acts and tributes. But as far as like a local bar club to hang out at, we don't have much left.
That's true. It's and things have closed not too long ago either. I mean, you're right. There isn't much to offer in terms of a venue for original music at all.
And, I mean, not only that, it's a tough sell for these venues to pack people in for original music.
Yeah,
that is the hard sell. We were talking to, I don't know if it was at the last Mingler, but we were talking about some of these venues we'll call back in the day, the Galaxy, Bonnie's, the Empire. These places had a local crowd that always went to these buildings, no matter what the band was. It was a group of people that liked to see original music, no matter what. That's what we did. It was like the Galaxy was the church. We went to church.
Yeah.
So Bonnie's was the church. We just went to church. That's all. That's what we like to do. It was there.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if we didn't know, who the band was. Original music, we're in. We got to see it.
So I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts as far as, I used to have an argument that popular radio won't give any new artists a chance, but now it's gotten to the point where I think it's a matter of getting it out there. There's now artists that are blowing up on TikTok and other areas. Do you guys think there's different ways for bands now to get exposed that maybe we didn't have before?
Yes, I definitely think there are other avenues. And if I don't have any musical talent. I've never played an instrument, by just hanging them up on the walls around here. But yes, I think that's a toughie. There are other avenues, and I think it comes back to if you're starting a business. So we'll have to call a band business, and you're going to need to know what the marketplace is and what your options are. So you have to kind of make your own luck in addition to funding it yourself. So I mean, a lot of these things don't get on the radio without a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
truth. So that's kind of off the table right there. So if you're going to make it happen yourself, like the kids that would pull together a show for a rec center, and get their gangs to come view it. If there's video games, you could try to market some music too. Like, it depends on what you want out of it. If
Right.
you're trying to get your music over, there's a lot. There's TikToks. I mean, there's comedians that have become famous, like Dane Cook.
Yeah.
They had to take a whole nother route. Like, I'm not going to do it this way, but there's this new internet thing. Let me get online and try it that way. And he was resented probably still is, because he made his own way in something that nobody else thought about doing before. So you do have to look at those things, and you do have to figure out where the audience is. You might have to take your stuff to where the audience is, and what is that? I mean, as the weather gets warmer, there's going to be more opportunities for events that happen outside at wineries and flower shows and strawberry festivals and town events. Cream Circus, that's another band that we like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see their name a lot on like a Collingswood Porch Fest. I guess they're close by to that area. It's like, oh, now I want to go to the Porch Fest.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a thing, but I know the band, so they've connected one to the other.
That was me always as a little kid. Was you could always find me. Like, my parents would take me to like township days. Just put me near the stage. You can go do whatever you want. I'll be here when you come back. Like that. That was always me. Like,
yeah, our school had a carnival, when we grew up. So there'd be a beer garden. There'd be a band of young guys, usually a cover band, playing some tunes. It's like, okay, cool. We're in 6th grade, 5th grade, or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool to see, even though nothing against cover bands at all. It's like, and we weren't even thinking that way. It's like, oh, there's some guys playing some music,
Yeah.
School dances. We actually had a band come in to our school dances. One of the students, and he had his band come play the dance. He didn't have to do that, because we would have easily just played records or something, but he made that happen. So yeah, I do think there's some other things. I just think you have to be creative about it, or just explore and see if somebody will allow it. 2 other quick examples I was thinking of not too long ago. There's car shows, there's bike rallies that happen once a year.
Hell yeah.
Raceway. There's what else? The horror fests. I actually contacted them to see if they would. There are some horror fests that do have bands, like in Atlantic City. So,
dude, believe it or not, I met the entire original Alice Cooper band at a horror convention, and then Michael Bruce's band played that horror convention, which was fantastic. And
the craft beer places. Our friend Ed and Michelle Seacrest over at Berlin Brewing, where we broadcast from on a regular basis now. They're building a stage. They're going to have a outdoor beer garden. They're going to have music stuff out there. So they're very motivated to bringing more live entertainment as they're allowed to in the beer hall there.
That's awesome. A couple quick comments that came up. Vinny, aka Mouse. Rich was only 16 when Sick Vicky started playing out. He was only allowed in before the set. So yeah, that age thing goes back some time.
Wow, that's funny. And shout out to Rich, man. Him and Pat, what a fantastic treat they gave us at that mingler the last time with the
yes, sir. The that acoustic set was I had no idea they were doing that. That came across great.
And I'll tell you what, we didn't bring it up. I never am a hard sell, and I figured people just want to hang out and have a good time. Rich took it upon himself. Bring the guitar. Can I play? You absolutely can.
Hell yeah. Well, what are you going to
do? Right. So, yeah.
And then somebody else put, there are way too many different options of entertainment since the internet's popularity, which spreads the audience too thin, too many options. What do you guys think on that one?
It does. It spreads the audience thin, but what it does eliminate is, like, when we were kids, we only heard the bands that The music executives wanted you to hear. That's the music we bought. That's what we heard. We heard
Right.
only what was on the radio. What this does now, I mean, it sucks that there's no push between these big, the execs, the companies. There's no record companies anymore. There's no money out there for these bands.
Yep.
So you do have to self-promote.
And to your point, with the audiences, if they're playing to us, we've got limited time or chances to get out for whatever reason that is. Our kids are, off to college and we're going to see them, or we've soccer games, you got fishing tournaments,
sure.
There's other entertainment options for sure.
But with all of, this watered down, or makes this, spreads the audience thin, certainly I believe it does make the dream more attainable for bands. It's not all about the record companies taking you and sending you out. You could do this on your own. Keep that dream alive.
But let's also think about, back when we were kids, when we were teenagers, going to our first rock shows. What was the predominant age group that were in those shows? They weren't our age. We're the age that seems to be showing up at a lot of these shows. Like, I remember being 18 years old going to see Aerosmith, and there were a shit ton of kids there my age. And now I'm going to Aerosmith at 47 years old, and it's all 47-year-old guys, man. It's like,
we grew up with the band.
We got to bring those young kids up to I don't think it's really the idea that there's so much entertainment out there. I think we need to start inspiring this younger group.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, if they don't like the music that we grew up on, I mean, we're not going to sell them on that.
Right. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of younger bands out there, and a lot of younger, there's other forms of rock other than what we had, but they weren't given the same avenues that we were. They're given different avenues. There's other ways to make it out there, like we said, but I think that the young base needs to be more instilled there.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking the fan or the band themselves?
I'm saying more the fans. I mean, there's a lot of young, like we said, a lot of young, hungry, original bands coming up. But the idea of connecting those young fans to those young bands, there were things like Mayhem Festival or Warped Tour or things like that have all kind of fallen by the wayside. But if you went into one of those shows, you could tell how hungry those young fans were for that music. Now we don't have those avenues anymore.
True. Yeah. I mean, it's going back to what we were saying about finding an audience and exploring those other ways. If you're in a band, unfortunately, you're going to have to take a couple business courses, learned, on the fly or on the street versus the books. But you do have to kind of explore the marketplace, know what it takes to compete in that marketplace. So it's not, you hear a lot of cover bands and tribute bands now that are trying to compete for spots down the shore. It's a hard place to get in. So now I got to compete on a TikTok, or I got to compete on a YouTube or something like that. Well, I better learn the right keywords. I better learn how all this is connected. How does my video get in line with a recommended list based on something else that they've watched? If they've watched an old Rat video, will something from Dirty Honey or something like that pop up?
And it's funny, I'm talking to so many young bands that they didn't listen really to anything they grew up with. They listen to our shit. It's funny to see how the 80s music is still potent out there and how much influential it is, even to the new generation coming up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I say to Kevin a lot, I say, listening to the music we listen to, we're fortunate, hard rock, heavy metal, it spans 50 plus years.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean, that 80s music is just that little, that decade of hair bands or whatever you want to call it. But, what I was going to say was, when we started listening to music, we had the basis. We listened to probably a little bit of what our parents listened to, whether it started off with Beatles, Elvis, And then, you know, we were interested in some other stuff, so Led Zeppelin, Billy Squier, and then it went from there.
Bill,
Yeah.
So whatever, man, whatever. It
well,
was
we found our own,
exciting.
we
It
found our
was-
own thing. So it was third grade. It would have been 1977 or whatever. We're in third grade, and this is when we discovered Kiss, right?
Mhm.
Kiss Alive 2, you know, it's all attractive to kids. There's Kiss dolls out. There's, you know,
But there was a
fun stuff.
reason we found this. Like, you know, I had friends that had older brothers that had Kiss posters on their wall. So as a kid, I'm like, whoa, what's going on there? These guys, that looks like a comic book character. These guys are crazy.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you
that's
found
a
it for
band.
yourself. Yeah.
Oh, you got to listen to this. All right, cool, man. You know, there were older kids walking around with Kiss belt buckles and shirts. And what is this? You know?
My oldest son, who is he'll be 26 this coming September. He was back in the early 2000s playing a Tony Hawk video game. And he found Kiss through that Tony Hawk video game. They were like playing on some stage that you had like a skate park to.
Mhm.
And he became an over-the-top, infatuated Kiss fan through a video game. So like we were saying, the other avenues are out there. It doesn't matter how you're heard as long as you're heard.
Yeah, it's funny. I got a 16-year-old at home, and I play this game if we're driving somewhere. Wherever we're driving, I'll, you know, put the hair station on or the whatever Ozzy's Boneyard on, but I'll put it on phone so you can't see who the artist is, and I'll make the kid, yo, who is this? You know, and I'll quiz him the whole way we're going.
Oh yeah, I do.
And he's like, oh, that's man, that's TNT. And you know, when it started, it was just like, oh, that's Ozzy. Well, and then it'd be like, that's Black Sabbath, but I don't know if it's Ozzy or Dio singing, but I know it's Black Sabbath. But now I got this 16-year-old. He is a big fan of this music, and that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
I'll piggyback on that and tell you a quick story about a friend of mine who was in the car with his young son at the time, maybe fourth grader or something like that. And Guns N' Roses comes on the radio. So he says to his son, hey, you know who this is? He's like, no, he goes, it's Slash. His kid's response was, Slash is real? You know, all he knew it was Guitar Hero was the only thing he knows about Slash, you know, the picture on the box, you know.
Yeah.
It was classic.
Yeah, it's funny, man. And like I'll do that exactly what you were talking about, Johnny, with different rock vocals with my sons. Listen to the singer. You could always tell Lemmy's voice. You could always tell Brian's voice. Like you know who this band is from that. So yeah, that's what made me laugh, Johnny, from what you were talking about. We have somebody that popped up that says topic original versus cover / tribute. It's hard. It's hard to be original. There's that age-old conflict between bar owners making the bottom line, booze dollars, versus promoting new, talented, original bands. Places to play, originals is few and far between. Places to play, I gotta agree, is few and far between. The possibility of bringing out people for original music, for me, kind of went to waste when, Kevin, you were there, that As We Become Ghost record release party was mobbed.
That was great. What a fantastic night. And you know, and not only did they deserve it because of all the work that they put into it, but they deserved it because of the music that they just released. The album's
exactly
great.
Right. Somebody else put in there, takes money to make money. It's not what you know, it's who you know to be successful. I don't know if that's 100% true today as it used to be. What do you guys think?
I think in the case of, say, for example, Soraya, we love that band. Absolutely. You'll hear them probably every other week on our show. And think of all the things that they've accomplished over the years and the connections that they've made. And they're on Little Steven's, you know, record label. And, you know, they're still at a certain level. You know, what's it going to take? There's people that we know commonly that are very friendly with different show hosts in the area on terrestrial radio, that are connected to companies. You know, it's not just that, but I definitely agree with the money comment that it costs money to build websites. It costs money to get a great logo, great merch, you know, SEO terms built into the website, email marketing. Certainly you can do a lot of things that used to do in the old school days. When I was going to bars, when I was turning 21, we were going up street to the saloon in Berlin, New Jersey. for big reason they had bands, but the other bigger reason it was quarter night, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So
Oh yeah.
you were going to do pretty well with a couple bucks. And the bands, most of the bands that we would see at that time, like Crystal Rocks, for example, would always put in a few originals, during the sets. Now we liked the guys. We had met them because we were there so often, and we would go see them at, whether at the Velvet Lounge or some other place if we were, just looking for a change, where we'd wait for them to come back to the saloon. But you get to know the guys, so now you're connected on that level. You like the covers that they play, and then when they start throwing some originals in, you're paying attention.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
to the
absolutely.
point, and they got to the point where they did get signed and had a record on one of the Polygram labels. But so it was kind of a neat way to be introduced to some original music that way.
Somebody throwing out my teenage boys know Pink Floyd to Green Day to Def Leppard. It really is on the parents' influence more so now than ever.
That even goes back to the kids, to go to the School of Rock, man. It's great that the parents promote this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Get out there, get an instrument. I'm going to send you. You want to play this? I'm going to push it. It's a great thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the bands that were just mentioned there are on a regular basis on the radio. The kids are hearing it, but nonetheless, I mean, it's great music that will be timeless and will be loved by generations to come. The way we liked Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and all that came before us, even Pink Floyd to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah! One event I'm looking forward to, just kind of throwing it out there and giving a heads up to Brain Damage, is later on in the year they're doing the Wizard of Oz Dark Side of the Moon thing at the Landis Theater. I'm looking forward to that.
That's funny.
But yeah, dude, I mean, Johnny E, going kind of back to what you were saying as far as the parents coming out and supporting it. I remember I was always a singer for a good part of my life. And I remember so many times there were parents that they're not going to come out and see it. Like there were parents that didn't like what you were doing. They didn't like what you were handing out. I think the parents now are more supportive. I've seen young bands as far as Age of Ore, as far as Zenora, other parents that are evolved around those bands that make that so much better for them.
Yeah. We don't let our kids out of our sights these days. Yeah. You think your dad would come watch you?
No, my dad would have dropped me off wherever I was for a little bit of peace and quiet. Are you kidding? But the point was he would have dropped me off. He would have took me where I needed to go.
Yeah,
and dropped me somewhere, that I like to be. But yeah, man, parents, it's important. These kids, the young kids, it's great.
Yeah. Well, it is, but when we're talking rock and roll, the kids got to find it for themselves and
exactly
really
right.
like it. Like I go back to Kiss only from the standpoint like that's third grade now. So now we're branching off because the things that we're now learning about after the fact, or the bands that were inspired by them, are what we're now growing up with. It was so third grade's that. So by the time sixth grade rolls around, when you get to the older siblings, I just remember hearing about bands like the Who and the or AC/DC, for example,
I think part of the reason we listened to this music was like rebellion too. It was rock and roll, man. It was, it was rebellious against, I don't want to say against the norm, but it was.
That's one thing, Johnny E, that I got to say that, and maybe Kevin, you could throw in there as well, was rock and roll used to be for me and for everybody that grew up with us was Damn the Man. Like you were saying, it was anti-establishment. It was a rebellion. Then it became kind of like certain corporate people had different ways that they were identifying. And as the commercials came out, and it kind of fell away from that. But it used to be the anti-establishment thing.
It did.
It certainly did in historical sense. Yeah, I for me personally, it was never a matter. I never had any opposition. My parents weren't telling me what to listen to or what not to listen to.
No, but it was.
But just getting back to the AC/DC,
it was exciting, man. It was you wanted to be part of that.
What was it was cool because, you know, it was magazines, Circus Magazine, there were album covers, you were out at the mall. In that era, we were going to the mall as our hangout place for the weekend. So you'd spend some time in the listening booth with Sam Goody and just kind of cycling through what's new on the racks. Same thing like you were talking about the radio, but you only heard what they played for you, and you're only exposed to what was on the racks, you know.
Yeah.
We
I'm sitting here thinking,
racks. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I am thinking that kind of, but
Yeah.
you know, you're mentioning the magazines, and I'm thinking, well, there was Playboy and Penthouse magazine too, but I wasn't running around with my pants off all over the place. As a kid, you know, I was trying, but I wasn't. My dad would have never drove me anywheres like that, you know.
I beg to differ. I told you.
But guys, I got to wrap it up, unfortunately, because my cell phone is dying, even though I should have charged it a lot more before we went on. But how do people go about finding Philly Rock Radio? I know for anybody that hasn't, by some imagination, come across you guys yet, how do they find you?
Yeah, you go to phillyrockradio.com and you can connect straight to our radio platform that way. If you have a radio app that you like to use on your phone, because or in the car for that matter these days, where you could probably find us pretty easily just searching Philly Rock Radio. And if you don't find us on there, because we're on several different TuneIn, Live 365, there's so many radio apps out there. And
I got you guys on my Live 365, so
yeah,
that's how I get you guys. But guys, Kevin,
CT, real quick, last just remember Philly Rock Radio. This is the station to go to listen to these independent artists, these local bands. It's not all national acts we play there. We play the independent artists on this radio station.
Absolutely.
That's what we like to do. This is where you're going to hear your friend's band. You're going to, if they send us the stuff and it kicks ass, it's going to be on here. Hell yeah.
It's truth.
Hey, I'll say it as far as on the video end, guys, this is where you go to hear it. So, like, guys, like, I am so glad to connect with you guys. Thank you so much. This is way beyond, like, time that we've actually sat down and talked a little bit. So,
very much so. Thank you for having us on.
Thanks, guys. You have a great rest of your week.
See you later, brother.
See you, man. So, guys, that was Philly Rock Radio. So proud to have them involved. Guys, make sure you come check us out next week. We are going to have a metal band from South Carolina called Attila that's going to be joining us. You want to make sure that you're here for them. Hold on for 1 second. I want to make sure I'm promoting the right band for you guys. And I actually wasn't. Attila said, I was like, wait, no, not Attila. RnRU. ANERGY from South Carolina. They'll be coming on and joining us. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Big shout out to our sponsor, Rosenfeld Dental Associates, located at 1095 Inman Avenue in Edison, New Jersey. Go rock your smile with the Rock Doc, David Rosenfeld, located at 1095 Inman Avenue in Edison, New Jersey. Nominated top dentist for 2022, 2021, and soon to be 2023. So, guys, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. We got 2 more weeks until the big bash at the Union Fire Hall. Get your tickets now. It's going to be crazy. So, guys, make sure you're out there. Much love, and until next time, don't just leave it better. Have a great night, everybody.